Here I am. Relax, I'm here. Sorry. I know. You need a new episode of the Comparison Group podcast. I've been busy. Busy as a human resources rep on Bring Your Daughter to Work Day. I tell you, I clean toilets, and some people don't believe me. I wish it wasn't true, but it is. It's a business. Hey, listen, you can make a good living cleaning toilets.
Walk in your rainbow paradise. Strawberry lipstick state of mind.
Think about it. What's the one thing every single person in America has?
A gun?
No. The one thing every single man, woman, and child in America needs to have.
A gun!
No. Think about it. Think about what I do for a living and tell me what everyone should have.
Oh, the website for the podcast.
Now you got it. Give it to the people.
Visit www.thecomparisongroup.com for episodes, sources and fact checks, and follow and rate the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, anywhere you get podcasts.
Nice job. My lovely wife, Mrs. Comparison Group Guy, helping out. She hates it when I ask her to do that.
Baby, you be on my mind, honey. I'll still fighting for you. Just let me adore you.
Thanks for joining me. Today is April 22nd, 2023. Ooh, Saturday, the weekend. Nice. And thank you so much for your recent support. The show has really been doing well lately, and I owe all of that to you. You for sharing it, because as I say, I don't really market the show outside of posting it on Twitter, if you call that marketing. So when my numbers go up, it's all due to the people who listen and the people who share it. So thank you. A word of advice, though, if I may. If you listen to an episode and I'm railing against Elizabeth Warren and progressives, and you say, oh, my progressive friends really need to hear this, and you share it, they may listen, but don't expect feedback. If you hear me railing against Trump and Republicans, if I'm reading off a list of generals and admirals, for instance, that have warned us about Trump, and you say, oh, my Trump supporting friends really need to hear this, same thing. Don't expect feedback. If you want feedback and you really want people to be more open, consider sharing shows that you don't agree with as well as the shows that you do really agree with. And say, hey, listen, I don't agree with what this guy is saying, but I found it interesting. That starts a conversation. You can really start a conversation by sharing an episode and saying, I'm looking at things a little differently now after I listen to this. I see your point of view a little better now after listening to this. I don't know, call me crazy, but it may just encourage people to then listen to one of the shows that you really want them to hear and maybe give back the same feedback. Hey, I listened to what you sent me, and while I don't agree, I do see your point of view a little bit better. Call me crazy, but give it a try. All right? Just a word of advice. Now, let's talk some topics. Let's talk about some topics that are in the news. And that's what I'm going to do this episode. Get caught up on some topics, and then I'll get to the main topic and explain why the government can't really help us, meaning help the American people. All right? But first, let's start with Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida. Let's start calling him Handsome Ron with his weight loss. Did you see? He's getting himself into presidential shape, losing weight. He's keeping that $500 haircut, but he's slimming down. He's starting to look like a young Liberace, isn't he? I honestly don't know what sense this strategy of going after Disney World and other businesses so hard over the gay issue. I just don't get it. I mean, I get it for a certain segment of the conservative base, but I don't get it as a national strategy. You know, a lot of people are saying that. It doesn't make sense nationally to go so hard on this issue. When he came out with the so-called Don't Say Gay, that's what people call the bill, you know, Don't Say Gay. When he came out with that, I said, okay, I get it. You can't discuss LGBTQ or sexuality or sexual orientation in schools to kids from 3rd grade and under. I said, okay, fine. I get that. I kind of understand that. That does seem a little young, you know, to start discussing those issues in school. But now he's talking about expanding that to all schools, or I should say schools up through high school, all grades up through high school. You can't talk about this stuff. But why? I don't know why. I mean, what does he think these teachers are going to say? Hi, my name is Miss Sharp. I'm gay. My wife and I have 2 wonderful children, and we like to go fishing on the weekend. Other than the governor of this state trying to make us out to be sexual deviants, we live a great life. I mean, what's he going to say? What are they going to say to the kids? If there are teachers in school who are gay or not gay, what are they really going to say to these kids that these kids aren't going to hear outside of school? I mean, what? He's worried about kids being taught about sexual orientation or about racism or about feeling bad about their heritage because of the history of the country? Are you kidding me? Can you imagine the president of Germany saying, listen, from now on, let's not teach anything between the years of 1939 and 1945. There might be some other years in there we want to exclude, too. I mean, the kids are going to learn that there are gay people, and they're going to learn that racism exists, Ron. Now, do you want them to learn about it from trained, nurturing professionals, or do you want them to learn about it on Grindr? Go on app Grindr and find out there's guys on there that say, no, I don't have sex with black guys. What? Next in the news, we are still dealing with this debt ceiling problem. Let's listen to a clip from CBS News.
Speaker Kevin McCarthy has unveiled the Republican plan to raise the debt ceiling by $1.5 trillion.
Now, that is in exchange, he says, for massive spending cuts to President Biden's agenda. His plan seeks to cancel the president's student loan forgiveness program. McCarthy also wants to reclaim unspent COVID-19 money and rescind new IRS funding. He claims the plan will reduce government spending by $4.5 trillion. Now, the House Speaker and President Biden both spoke about the debt ceiling yesterday.
The threat of defaulting on America's debt for the first time in 230 years.
I swear, if I hear one more person getting their nipples all twisted, getting all dramatic about us defaulting on our debt. The full faith and credit of the blah, 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 blah. It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. They say it oh my goodness, can you believe the Republicans want to put the full faith and credit of the, it's not going to happen. They're not going to let it happen. Democrats are not going to let it happen. It's never going to happen. Yes, I know it will be cataclysmic. It will be a disaster. It will be Armageddon. Everything that everyone always says about it, but it's never going to happen. This Republican Party might be crazy right now, but they ain't that crazy. We go through this every time with this whole debt ceiling thing. Let me continue the clip.
This whole effort reeks of hypocrisy and double standard. So no one put any conditionality on Donald Trump. In 4 years, he got 3 debt ceiling increases with overwhelming Republican support and not a whisper about, no, it has to be balanced with cuts somewhere else. And we got to remember, this isn't forward-looking, right? A debt ceiling statutory increase is all about confirming we're good for the debt we've already incurred.
So I wanted to play that in fairness because that encapsulates what the Democrats' argument typically is. All right, it's hypocrisy. Yes, it is hypocrisy. I cut out Kevin McCarthy, some of the things he said, but he talked about Biden and overreach and executive orders and spending outside the normal channels, as if Donald Trump didn't reallocate money from the military to build a wall on the southern border. Of course, it's hypocrisy. It's what they do. The Republicans hate spending unless they're in power. The Democrats don't mind spending, whether they're in power or not. So this is what you get. you get the hypocrisy. When the Republicans are out of power, they don't want to allow Democrats to do any type of spending that is outside of what they see as necessary or as worthy. So they want to get rid of the student loan forgiveness. They want to use some of the COVID funds that have been unspent to pay down the debt, which I don't have a problem with that. I can't imagine why that would be an issue. If we have leftover COVID money, let's use it. Let's put it back in the Treasury and pay down the debt. So the Republicans have a point. It gets marred because their point, again, is based on hypocrisy. I get that. And the point is always made, this spending, this debt ceiling increase is to pay for past spending, not future spending. So yes, necessary to clarify that point. All right. So all that being said, does anyone in Congress understand the definition of the word limit? Call it a debt limit, call it the debt ceiling, call it whatever you want. It's a limit. So what the heck is a limit if you never abide by it? You might say, my limit when I drink is 14 beers. Bud Light if I'm progressive, an IPA or craft beer if I'm a communist, or Coors Light if I'm a patriot. But 14 is my limit. After that, I get sloppy and stupid. Now, do I always stop at 14? No. So then there are consequences. The next day, there are consequences. Or weeks later, there are consequences, and you're at the drugstore buying pregnancy test. The point is, when you go past your limit, you gotta face the consequences. Democrats don't want to do that, and Republicans only want to do that when there is a Democratic president. It's ridiculous. So we go through this same song and dance every time. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I think we have until July. I think July is the deadline to do something about the debt ceiling. They'll do it at the last minute, the 23rd hour. They'll figure it out. Same as always. Let's move on. What else is in the news? They had Tennessee lawmakers kicked out, now back in. Total waste of time. Total waste of time. Now, I don't want to make light of this because it's over a very serious issue, guns. And you had 6 people killed, 3 children in Tennessee. And so there was a protest over guns. I shouldn't assume everyone understands or everyone knows about this story. Let's listen to a clip. This is from ABC News.
This morning, growing outrage after Tennessee's Republican-controlled House voted to expel 2 Democrats. State Representatives Justin Jones and Justin Pearson were expelled on a party-line vote after they led a gun reform protest in the House chamber last week in response to the school shooting in Nashville that left 6 people, including 3 children, dead.
Just because you don't get your way, you can't come to the well, bring your friends, and throw a temper tantrum with an adolescent bullhorn.
There's something in the decorum of this body that says it's okay to call that a temper tantrum, to call people we disagree with on the issues, to say that all they want is attention. But I'll tell you what, I don't personally want attention. What I want is attention on the issue of gun violence. But instead, we're here with a resolution you put up talking about expelling me for advocating for ending gun violence in the state of Tennessee.
Some Republicans compared the moment to January 6th.
What they did today was equivalent, at least equivalent, maybe worse, depending on how you look at it, of doing an insurrection in the Capitol.
So I heard a lot of that on the right-leaning conservative media that I listen to, that these 2 guys were insurrectionists, that what they did was equivalent to what was done on January 6th. And of course, everyone on the left jumped on it, took the bait. Oh, what are you saying? I didn't see anyone on January. I didn't see the people at the Tennessee Capitol busting out windows and taking a poop on people's desks and stealing podiums and blah, 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 blah. When the answer should have been, if you ask me, okay, fine. At least you now know what an insurrection looks like. If you want to call what the 2 Tennessee lawmakers did an insurrection, but you didn't want to call what happened on January 6th an insurrection, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So sometimes call them on that. Rather than just stating the obvious that they were 2 completely different things, okay, I'll go with your argument. You want to call these 2 guys insurrectionists, call them insurrectionists. But call the people that stormed the Capitol on January 6th insurrectionists. Don't call them heroes. Don't call them heroes that should be pardoned. You know, sometimes you got to call people's nonsensical bluff. You know, I say it's a waste of time, or this was a waste of time, not meaning that their protest about this gun violence was a waste of time when emotions are running high. I'm saying the whole kicking them out, and then 2 weeks later they get reinstated. I think one guy, he even got reinstated with a unanimous vote. Democrats and Republicans voting to reinstate him after they voted to kick him out. A total waste of time, when that time should be spent solving the problem of gun violence in this country. That's the time that should be spent, not wasting it trying to make a point that, if you come in the Capitol with a bullhorn, you're an insurrectionist. Again, nonsense. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Let's move on to something fun. Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas, accepting gifts from a wealthy donor. What's the sense of being a Supreme Court judge if you can't accept gifts from a wealthy donor? But honestly, I don't know. I can't speak on it because I don't really know enough about what the rules are. I mean, you have to disclose everything. You know, I could see where, talk about conflicts of interest and all of that, but you have to disclose everything. I don't know. I don't know the rules, and I don't feel like looking up the rules. So I just wonder, if I have a friend and he or she is wealthy and they say to me, hey, you're going on vacation? Why don't you go ahead and use my private plane? I'm not using it. Or you're going to Turks and Caicos? I have a home there. Feel free to stay in my home. You're a friend. You have to disclose that? I don't know. If it has nothing to do with my job as a Supreme Court justice, I don't know. I know it smells fishy because it's Clarence Thomas, and so the left wants to pounce. But I talk consistency here. It's always about consistency. So unless you have some evidence that it affected his judgment on the Supreme Court, I just don't know. And don't say, well, he voted this way or he voted that way. He voted more favorable to wealthy donors, or he voted more favorable to businesses that are similar to the business that this guy was in. That's not proof, because that seems to be Clarence Thomas's ideology. He seems to be more conservative and more business friendly. Does it have anything to do with just who he is as a person, or does it have to do with him accepting gifts or whatever from wealthy friends? I don't know. So let's move on to the last news item for now. Let's see here. Which one should I choose? Donald Trump loves authoritarian leaders? Nah, I'm sick of talking about Trump. The Starbucks CEO testified in front of Congress. Not right now. Maybe next episode. I do want to talk some more about Starbucks and the unions. I have some things to say. I haven't talked about unions in a while. Sometimes people think I talk too much about unions, but I haven't talked about it in a while, and he did testify. So maybe next episode I'll talk a little bit about that. How about gun violence in the country? I'm not in the mood. I'm not in the mood to talk about that. What should I talk about? The Fox News settlement. Ooh. Let's make that the last news item. The Fox News settlement. Let's listen to this clip.
Fox trying to put a positive face on what can only be interpreted as one of the ugliest and most embarrassing moments in the history of journalism. Fox issued a statement saying, quote, "We are pleased to have reached a settlement of our dispute with Dominion voting systems. We acknowledge the court's rulings finding certain claims about Dominion to be false. The settlement reflects," I'm sorry, this is going to be difficult to say with a straight face. "This settlement reflects Fox's continued commitment to the highest journalistic standards. We are hopeful that our decision to resolve the dispute with Dominion amicably instead of the acrimony of a divisive trial allows the country to move forward from these issues." Unquote.
Very unprofessional, Jake Tapper. Very unprofessional. What kind of read was that? So he reads the quote from Fox about the settlement, $787 million, I believe it was, with Dominion voting over Fox News host misleading, I guess would be the word you could use, their audience about the election, the 2020 election, that Dominion voting machines were flipping votes from Trump to Biden, that Dominion voting machines had been hacked into, whatever was said, okay? How do I feel about it? I'll just sum it up. How do I feel about it? I feel like Dominion kind of let us down. I feel like I would have liked to have seen this be a moment where a private company stands up and says, you know what, this is not about money. This is about the country. And we are going to set a standard here. We're going to set a standard across the board for all media, not just Fox News, not just conservative media, but liberal media as well. We're going to set a standard for what you can say and what you can't say to your viewers without impeding on the First Amendment. Without impeding on the First Amendment. It is not a assault on the First Amendment to say to people who are providing information, they are a source of information that people rely on. It is not infringing on the First Amendment to say that information has to be vetted and you have to present it in an honest and faithful way. And if you unknowingly present information that's not true, well, then you're required to print or give some sort of retraction. And that's the one thing that Fox News doesn't have to do out of this settlement, is in any way apologize or retract any of the statements that they made. And so I would have liked to see Dominion push for that, whether it be in the settlement or whether it be in saying, you know what, we're not going to settle. We're going to go to court because we want all of this to be aired. We want these people to testify. We want Tucker Carlson to testify. We want Sean Hannity to testify. We want Rupert Murdoch to testify. We want the executives at Fox News to testify. We want the people who behind the scenes that were saying what we're doing is wrong. We want those people to testify so that we can set a standard for what our media should look like. And I would be saying if it was Rachel Maddow or Don Lemon or Anderson Cooper, I would be saying the same thing. We have to have a standard for our media. This case presented an opportunity for that, and I feel like we missed it. So that's how I feel about the settlement. And if you don't like it, keep in mind what podcast you're listening to and go back and listen to my episode, How to Understand the Conservative Mind. Go back and listen to that episode. I gave you 2 documentaries that were done from a liberal, left-leaning point of view that complained about voting machines, that complained voting machines could be hacked into, complained votes could be switched, that these things could be tampered with. I presented that information to you. So I'm not biased here. That whole episode was based on the premise that while conservatives and liberals may behave differently, when they lose an election, they think exactly the same way. They think the election was stolen. So I'm fine with that. I'm fine with the thought. As I said in the episode, I'm fine with the thought. If you think something fishy happened here, something suspicious going on here, that's okay. It's okay to think that. But your behavior in response can't be to storm the Capitol. Your behavior in response can't be to say, well, I'm not going to cooperate in any way with this administration because I don't see them as being legitimate. Your behavior in response can't be, I'm going to root against the country or I'm going to do everything in my power to hurt the country if it hurts the other party that I'm not happy with. It's the behavior. So I'm someone who says, hey, the left does it, the right does it when it comes to thinking about elections not being fair. So in this case, what Fox did was horribly wrong for the country, probably led to at least one person being killed. Ashley Babbitt probably led to her being killed because of her activities on the day on January 6th. And that's a tragedy. And no one's held responsible for that. That needs to change. And this court case presented an opportunity for that change. And as I said, I think we missed it. But maybe some good will come of it. Maybe. I know people are pessimistic that Fox will change its ways, that our media in general will change its ways. But maybe some good will come of it. Last clip for this episode, Allison Camerata from CNN did a little, I guess you'd call it a little focus group with some Fox News watchers after the settlement to ask them, some of their feelings, their opinions on the settlement between Fox News and Dominion. Just listen to this one guy's response to a question about how he will see things going forward.
Ryan, will you be watching through a different filter, as Reagan said? I think I'm going to be expanding my net some more. Allison, you might be winning a new future viewer, but also, the things that Fox News is showing is not necessarily the things that CNN is showing. And expanding my net will be, I think, helpful so that I don't have these blind spots like this Dominion case.
There it is. There you go. That's it right there. If nothing else comes of this case, you at least got one Fox viewer going, I got to get information from other sources. Now, how many times have I said that on this podcast? I mean, it's the point of the whole podcast, to try and present an alternative form of information, to try and present an all-encompassing source of information. And I feel silly for saying it because it seems like such common sense. But there are millions of people who don't do it, who go to the same old source of information. And all of those people, pretty much all the people, she talked to 4 people, what a ton of people, but she had 4 people up on the screen, and she started out by asking them if they were aware of this lawsuit, the Fox lawsuit with Dominion. And none of them were fully aware of it. They kind of knew something, but none of them really knew about it. And it's been reported. Fox News, they're not reporting on the settlement. They're not talking about it. And so for one guy to realize, I got to expand my net. I hope you can understand what he said. I have to expand my net of where I go to get information. And it's nice to hear him say, maybe because Allison Camerata from CNN reached out to say, hey, what do you think? How do you feel? In return, he says, you know what? I may start watching your show now. So again, how many times have I said that? If you just reach out to people, if you just talk to people in a conversational way, if you have a discussion with people, not a debate with people where you're trying to prove them wrong, they'll talk to you and they'll also listen to you. But you know what's going on. You know what's going on. Everyone out there on the left is going, see, Fox watchers, see, Fox News watchers, you idiots. They were lying to you the whole time. In no way feeling that maybe they're not getting a full scope of the story from MSNBC or CNN or ABC or News Nation or any news source, Politico, Occupy Democrats, any news source, any information source, not getting a full scope of the information. And that's why the government can't help us. That's why the government can't help us. Because we are the problem. Not me and you. If you listen to the show, if you listen to more than 3 episodes of the show, you're not the problem. We're awesome. But people are the problem. Information gathering involves finding out things maybe you didn't expect to find out. Maybe didn't even want to find out. But we resist that. We resist that like we think if we hear something that causes us to admit we made a mistake or an opinion we held was wrong, we'll be shunned from society. That's why the government can't help us, because we are the problem. It's like trying to help put out a fire by pouring gasoline on it. The more you try and do, the worse it seems to get. Now, I know the holy triumvirate of Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and Alexandria, I'm ignorant even for a New Yorker, Ocasio-Cortez, thinks there's no problem that can't be solved with some government intervention. But the thing that screws up government intervention is the people. People who waste it. People who steal it. People who need it but don't go get it. People who don't need it but take it. People who have it but won't give it. Government does great, important things we all need and should be grateful for. So hear what I'm saying. I'm not talking about that stuff. I'm not talking about all the wonderful things that government does for us that we take for granted. I'm talking about government trying to be a problem solver for all problems, except the main problem. People. We have to fix ourselves, our bias, our stubbornness, our lack of communication, our refusal to accept responsibility. Government gives us highways and we can't get places fast enough, killing each other left and right. Government gives us the internet. We use it for sex and hate, anything but learning. Government gives us renewable forms of energy. We leave every light in New York City on 24/7. Private companies give us convenience like shopping from home online. And we complain because somebody got wealthy by doing it. Give us opportunity and we'll turn it into an obstacle. Just give us opportunity and we will turn it into an obstacle. The biggest obstacle to people reaching their full potential doesn't require government intervention. It just requires people to be decent and fair and open-minded and realistic and self-critical and hardworking. All things that not a dollar of government spending can buy. All things that not a second of government intervention can provide. Let's say I'm homeless. I'm a homeless guy. The government is going to intervene. They're going to spend money to get me off the street, give me a place to live, clean me up, get me a job making donuts. What's the problem? I got a habit of picking my nose. You can't pick your nose and make donuts. Nobody wants that. So you have to break yourself of the habit. The government can't do that for you. We have to break ourselves of these bad habits in this country that we have been forming, that have been getting worse and worse over the past however long. Until we break ourselves of these habits, we are the problem, and so the government cannot solve the problem. So if you say to me, well, come on, comparison group guy, you're the solution, suggestion, idea guy, what would be the number one habit that you would try and change? If you were to wave a magic wand and change this bad habit for people across the country, which one would it be? The number one bad habit that I would change for the country and for myself. Definitely for myself. Procrastination. Putting off what you know you should be doing. What you know you need to be doing. Everything changes. Everything changes when you get up early. We're in the habit, most people, not everyone, but most people, a lot of people, we stay in bed for as long as we can. Give me 5 more minutes. Give me 10 more minutes. And then you're up late. You're rushing out the door. You barely have time to talk to the kids, talk to your spouse. You're driving like a maniac to work, cutting people off. They're cutting you off because they did the same thing. Now you're angry. You got road rage. You get to work angry. You got there late, so now you're behind in your work. You're upset about that. You're stressed out. Everything changes. If you just get up a little earlier and you don't have to rush, don't you feel so much better? Doesn't your day go so much better? Everything changes, but we never do it. We never do it. We do it once in a blue moon, and every time we do it, we go, oh, that was great. Oh, I felt so good. I got up early. I had a nice breakfast. I worked out. But we need immediate gratification. That extra 5 minutes is the immediate gratification. It's one of my worst habits. One of my worst bad habits is procrastination. I'm not a lay in bed kind of a guy, but I am a put off till tomorrow what I can do today kind of guy. And we do it in a lot of different things, a lot of different areas. Maybe you're hearing a little knock in the engine. You go, oh, man, I should take the car in. It's making a funny noise. But you don't. You put it off and you put it off till the engine falls out of the thing. And I tell you, it's going to cost you $3,000 to fix that. And then you're complaining about you don't make enough money. Complaining about your job because you don't have any money. Plus because you procrastinated. You didn't take care of what you know you should have been taken care of. You say, I should start saving money. I should start setting a little money aside. The hot water heater looks like it's about to go. It's 20 years old. But you don't. You don't because you want immediate gratification. You want to use that money to do fun things, buy things you want. And then the hot water heater goes on you. And so what could have cost you hundreds now costs you thousands because the whole house flooded. And the insurance company won't cover it. And now you're mad at the insurance company. Be mad at yourself. When we start being willing to get mad at ourselves for things, we'll get mad at ourselves for a lot of things, including having a favorable rating for Congress of 18%, but at the same time, sending the exact same people back year after year after year after year, electing the same people that we say aren't getting anything done. When we start to get mad at ourselves and start to realize it falls on us, not on them, then we'll elect people who say, yeah, you know what? A lot of it does fall on you, but we can help. We can't solve all your problems, but we can help. And for the smart people, for the comparison group people, that's good enough. Thanks for listening. That's the show. I appreciate it. How did I do on time? Not too bad. Not too bad. Don't want to go on for too long. But I appreciate it. I appreciate you investing your time. I surely do. I know this show is not for everyone, So I do appreciate when you share it. Keep sharing it. Like I said, you won't get the feedback, but keep sharing it. It'll get through. I know it will.
Some folks are born made to wave the flag. Ooh, they're red, white, and blue. And when the band plays, hey,
Very easy. Just copy the link on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you go. Just copy that link and just paste it. There should always be a link to the show on any platform that you listen.
it ain't me. It ain't me. I ain't no fortunate born. No. Some folks are born silver spoon in hand. Lord, don't help themselves.
Don't forget on Spotify, you can leave me feedback. Please do that. It helps. It helps me. It helps others to see the feedback, to elicit some discussion, some varying points of view. It helps. Sometimes I'll put a poll question up there. It allows me to do that now also. Sometimes I will, sometimes I won't. But every episode going forward now, you can leave me some comments about the show, what you agree with, what you disagree with. So please do that. Other than that, enjoy your weekend. Be nice to people. Be nice to people who are nice to you. If people are nice to you, screw them.
It ain't me. It ain't me. I ain't no millionaire son. No, no. It ain't me.
Thanks a lot. I'll see you next time.
I ain't no fortunate one.